Hey, what's going on? So wanted to do a video before today. I am a little over 3 weeks past surgery. I'll get this out of the way right now, just so you can see what they did to me here. Of course, the split down here. It's about an 8-inch incision, and there are two holes where they had drain holes. Those were removed about 2 days after surgery, and right now, for all the surgical related stuff, those are what hurt the most, believe it or not. There's some real bad bruising around there, and if I twist the wrong way, it really does hurt. Feels like I'm being stabbed, and it's actually just the one. It's the one on this side. The one on this side doesn't really bother me. But yeah, this is gonna be kind of a longish video, and I know I'm gonna forget stuff. But so I go in the day of my surgery. That would have been on the 14th of November. Man, time's going by quick. I keep forgetting things. But yeah, 14th of November, I go in for my surgery. From the time that I get there till the time they take me back to prep, I would say it was probably roughly 30 minutes, give or take. It was me, and I had 3 family members along with me. They call you back for prep. My wife went back with me, and that goes pretty quick. They're getting a whole lot done in a pretty short period of time. They got me shaved. I don't keep chest hair anyway, so they didn't have to do anything there. But they did have to, shave some of my arms, some of my legs, in the event that they would have to tap into those for some reason. I don't think they did, but who knows? When I woke up, I had a few like abrasions and stuff on me that I wasn't really expecting, and there was no real clear cut explanation for. But they had 2 IVs on my left arm, one on the top of my hand here, and then another underneath. They ran a line on my left arm, as I was told, it's so they could get real-time blood pressure information. I mean, it kind of makes sense because, they can't have that cuff thing running because that's time consuming. This gives them, I guess it gives them basically an instantaneous readout constantly. That did not go smooth. The girl who tried to run it the first time, I believe she was a student, and she was having a heck of a time with it. It wasn't going off, and I wasn't upset or anything. People have to learn. That's how they learn. It is what it is. But eventually she stepped aside, and I think it was the lead anesthesiologist ended up running that line, and he did a much better job. Funny thing that did happen during that, though, was when they were in the process of removing the first attempt, and I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I'm not. You know what? I'm not even gonna bother showing you. I might show you the wrong thing, but you can see where the attempt was made and the successful one. But when they pull out that first attempt, there was blood that was kind of spurting out. I didn't see it. My wife did. Caused her to pass out, which she doesn't. She's not really. That kind of stuff doesn't bother her. But I think just the stress of the day, the fact that it was me. Yeah, she ended up passing out in the prep room. But that was all that they did to me in prep. I didn't have like a catheter on, or there wasn't they put a tube in your neck. I forget why they put that there, but that hadn't been run. It was just the one line on my arm, and of course the shaving. So once all that's done, and again, this is all happening pretty quick. They take me back to they wheel me back to the operating room, and I go wheeling past my wife, who's in a bed of her own because she passed out, and they're taking care of her. She got her own IV and everything else. It mess. But yeah, they get me back to the operating room, and again, things happen pretty quick. They transfer me over into the table where the operation is going to take place, and all the while, I got to give this guy credit, although I can't remember his name. The anesthesiologist, he was a champ through the whole thing. I mean, the whole time he's talking to me about like non-surgical stuff. You know, he's trying to keep you calm, trying to keep your mind off of things. A real positive guy. He did a phenomenal job. So hats off to him. But yeah, I get on the surgical table, and like I said, it all happened so quick. I don't remember a whole lot taking place other than, you know, they put me under, and you always hear about, you know, they do the countdown, count backwards from 10, and then, you know, they didn't do any of that. They just gave me the anesthetic, and I was out. And this led to, well, no, there was one thing that did take place. I asked specifically if I was going to wake up with a breathing tube, because that's something that, like, I've got like anxiety issues when it comes to like breathing, having to have like controlled breathing, having like even like minor breathing restrictions really freaks me out. It's one of the reasons I'm not really a very good swimmer, is because I just don't like the forced controlled breathing thing, and a breathing tube would definitely fall into that category. So I was really concerned about that, and the person I asked, and I think it was the same anesthesiologist, I asked if I was going to wake up with a breathing tube in, and he said, possibly, but you probably won't remember it. You're going to be on whatever coming out of anesthesia that you won't remember it. I remember it, but jumping ahead a little bit. So they put me under, and I didn't know what that experience was going to be like, if I was going to be under and I would have some sense of a passage of time. Would I have dreams? Would I, you know, maybe hear things or imagine things? None of that. I was put under, and then I woke up. There was nothing that happened in that amount of time in my head. It was all instantaneous. Maybe other people's situation or other people's experiences are different. That was mine. Thankfully, I'm glad it was like that. But when I did wake up, I did have the breathing tube in. I wasn't happy about that. I was unable to speak as a result of that. I had my wits about me enough to be able to like form coherent thoughts. My wife and my mother were in the recovery room with me, and was my daughter there too? Yeah. All three of my people that came with me were there. But I couldn't really communicate with them. I'm trying to like form, I don't know sign language, but I'm trying to form words by making, you know, hand gestures and stuff. It wasn't really working too much. The one thing that I was able to kind of convey to my wife was I wanted that breathing tube out. Now they can't take it out until they're confident you're breathing. So I worked really, really hard to demonstrate that I was perfectly capable of breathing on my own. So I think from the time I was awake and kind of with it enough to know that I was awake, till the time that the breathing tube actually was able to come out. I want to say it was about 20 minutes. It's kind of fuzzy. It could have been a little less. It could have been a little bit more. It wasn't like it was an hour though. I know it wasn't that long. But taking the breathing tube out I wasn't sure what to expect. What they did is they had my three people leave the room, basically just go on the other side of the curtain. And I forget if I had to breathe out when they did it, or if I had to hold my breath, or I forget what they had to do, but they just pull it out. And I wasn't expecting that. There was no pain or anything associated with it, but I was so medicated that I couldn't probably feel much of anything. Like I had my senses with me, but that was about it. Well, and then, so when I wake up, I still have the line that they ran for my arm. I had a new line put in my neck. that was actually fairly sizable, and they put the catheter in while I was under. Uh, so I'm trying to remember what room I was in. If they had to move me to a different recovery room, or yeah, I'm kind of drawing a blank on that one. I want to say I was kept in the same room, but I may have been moved. No, I had to have been moved. Because I remember there was a guy across the hall from me. He was kind of in the same position I was in from everything that I could kind of hear the nurses saying. It sounded like he wanted his breathing tube out, but he wasn't able to breathe on his own. So he was having kind of a rougher go at it. And I don't know, maybe he just didn't know he had to breathe on it or what it was, but that motivated me all the more. Yeah, I think they moved me to a yeah. Okay, yeah, they took me out of the recovery room and moved me to intensive care, where I was for a day, a little less than a day. Yeah, so they moved me there from recovery to intensive care. I still have all the lines in me. I have the 2 drain tubes, the thing in my neck, thing in my arm, catheter. I had the 2 IVs, but nothing was connected to them. At least I don't think there was. Guess I don't know for sure. I know once I was in intensive care and kind of had my wits about me a little bit more, that there wasn't anything. I think they did give me some fluids though. I know they gave me fluids at some point in time, if not during surgery, then sometime after, but we'll get to that later. So I'm in intensive care for a day, a little less than a day. While in intensive care, they removed, so this would have been the next day before they take me to, I don't know, I've heard it called step down, but to be honest, I think it's just except there was other people there who were, in fact, couldn't get ahead of myself again. But, so they get me into the room where I'm going to be for the next like 5 days, and 4 days. So before they do that, they take out the thing in my arm, take out the thing in my neck, they remove the catheter. So at that point in time, I'm more or less disconnected from all the tubes. No, nothing connected to my IVs. Of course, they've got you on the monitors, all the things on your chest, connected to a box that sends the information to the monitors in the room. They get all that stuff out. At that point in time, I'm doing pretty good. Pain is being managed. Can't say I was particularly uncomfortable outside of just the procedure and everything, but it wasn't like I was in constant pain. So they moved me to my permanent room, and when they did that, they wanted to take my weight. At this point in time, I couldn't get like in and out of bed on my own, because you can't lift up with your arms at all because of your sternum has been separated, so they don't want any tension on that. And the pain, like if I was not moving around, the pain wasn't bad. If I would shift or anything, the pain would be pretty bad. So at this point in time, I wasn't getting in and out of bed yet. But they wheel me to the room. They want me to get on the scale, which I was able to do. If I could get help standing up, then I could stand on my own. So I stand up, I get on the scale, and the first number I see is a 2. I went into the hospital weighing about 170, 175, and now I'm over 200 pounds. What it is they ended up pumping me with about 25 pounds of fluid. As I've been told, surgery goes a lot better when you have a bunch of fluid in you, like the recovery and everything. I can't explain it. I didn't really get a good explanation as to why. It just is what it is. So, over the next 4 days, they give you some stuff to help you pee, to get rid of all that fluid and everything. And I got rid of most of it by the time I came home. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And where it stands right now, I'm back to my normal weight. Maybe, and I didn't really lose a whole lot of weight while I was there. I went in between like 170, 175. I'm still between 170, 175. But the next few days are just dedicated to recovery. The drain tubes got removed. The first, I got to the room, my permanent room. If I remember right, I had a drain tube removed the day after that, and then the second one the day after that. And what these drain tubes are, they are literally just tubes that go in you. And I wasn't sure what they drain into or what they were going to drain to. I knew I was going to have drain tubes. What they actually drain into, and it could be different for other people, I guess. But for me, it was like these bulbs that were about that big around, maybe the size, a little bit bigger, not as big as a softball, but bigger than like about baseball size, I guess I know, but not baseball shape. And a nurse would just come in and pop them off the tube, drain them out, and pop them back in place. They had the potential of leaking, but mine didn't really, or if they did, it might have just been one time. But yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't like they was hooked to a machine or in like some kind of large canister or anything like that I had to like carry around with me. I barely knew that they were there. And with the hospital gown and everything, I never even really saw them or got a good look at them. Oh, and also, I was also say the removal of the catheter, that didn't hurt at all. The removal of anything didn't hurt, but some of it did feel weird. Getting the thing out of my neck felt weird. Getting the thing out of my arm felt weird, but none of it really hurt that bad. But again, that could also have been the medication talking. But yeah, once I get to my permanent room, the big focus then is getting up and walking, which I was doing that day, I believe. They actually got me up, and and I imagine a lot of hospitals are like this. The floor is set up in a big, like, squared figure 8. So you could do like a little loop, and my room was clear in the one corner. So like I could do like a little loop, or I could do a big loop. The first day being assisted with the cardiac rehab person, I just did a small loop, came back to the room, because you would get tired really, really fast. So I did that like once or twice the first day. By the second day, no, I think it was the third day, I was doing the big lap, and then like the fourth day I was able to do the big lap twice, plus steps, because I think it was like my second full day there, they had me attempt steps, and it was like you go into the fire exit, literally you go into the fire escape thing, and you just try walking up 3 steps. So I walked up 3 steps. I could have gone further, but that's all she wanted me to do. So I go up 3 steps, down 3 steps, backwards. She didn't want me turning around and trying to come back down forwards, which I get, but I was capable of doing it. So by the third day of being in there, at that point in time, everything's removed from me, except I still have the IVs, but they're not getting used for much. And there was also talk that I could have gone home that day, but we'll get to that later. I'm able to get in and out of bed on my own, go to the bathroom on my own, although I hadn't done it too. And that's, I guess, a product of the anesthesia. It causes your bowels to just sort of stop. And this whole time, because my bowels weren't moving, I'm on a fluid diet. I didn't have anything solid to eat. So it's like, they give you sherbet, they give you juice, they give you all that stuff, but nothing that you like chew up and swallow. That sounds worse than what it was. because I wasn't that hungry anyway. Like I wanted to eat something just to kind of feel normal. But in terms of like being hungry, I wasn't that hungry. Um, but by the by the fourth day, man, these days are not adding up in my head at all. I should have probably wrote this stuff down. I just didn't. But it's crazy how quickly you start forgetting stuff. Um, but by the my next to last day there, I was eating regular food, um, and like I said, also at that time, able to get in and out of bed on my own. I could sit down in a chair, get up on my own, walk around on my own. And they were fine with that. The staff was fine with that. I would have to disconnect my blood ox thing attached to my finger that goes back to the machine in my room. I'd have to disconnect that. All my heart rate and everything, all that is going back to a box, which gets sent to the monitor in my room. And, they monitor it all over the floor. But that wasn't restrictive. I could carry that around with me. It's just a little box. It's like the size of a cell phone, but thicker. It's maybe like an inch thick. And of course, there's wires from it going to you. There's like 6 or 8 wires, something like that. But yeah, I had full mobility. I could go in. I could walk the steps on my own. And they were okay with that. And they were going to send me home a day sooner than I ultimately got sent home. But I was having issues with, was it platelets or hemoglobin or something like that? I don't know. They didn't really explain it too well, and I was not really up to ask. But they ended up putting 2 pints of blood in me. Was it 2 pints? 2 bags, whatever's considered a bag. I don't know if that's considered a pint or not, but they put 2 bags of blood on me. And that's a time-consuming process, which is one of the reasons why they weren't going to send me home that day, is because it just took so long. I think that process, I think it was about 2 hours per bag, and with a little break in between to, use the bathroom or whatever it is you need to do. Yeah, they got me squared away there and sent me home. And have to ride, and this is the other thing too, have to ride in the back seat because they don't want you riding with an airbag. And we can't turn. We tried. We looked in the owner's manual. We couldn't get the airbag to turn off in our car. So I've been riding in the back seat ever since. And they we don't want the seatbelt right up against your chest, so you want some kind of pillow or something there. So my daughter got me this guy. Oh, this is Petey. This is my seatbelt buddy. I think he's a Pekin duck, the all white ones with the yellow beacon feet. So I've been riding with him. Feels a little silly, but what the heck, puts a smile on my face in these times. So yeah, and it's been about like that ever since. A couple curveballs that got thrown though. The day after Thanksgiving, my surgery was on the 14th. Whatever, if you're curious about it, I'm not doing it in my head, I'm not looking it up. If you're curious about it, look it up on the calendar. But the day after Thanksgiving, I was having heart rate issues where my heart rate was like high 130s, 140, low 140s for a sustained period of time. When I say a sustained period of time, I mean it was like 15, 20 minutes, and it wasn't going down. It was staying solid. So we had a scare there. We called 911, and they came out, took my vitals, and here's a little funny thing about 911. There's like, if you live where I do, they don't get to you immediately, just because they're not close by. So if it takes me 20 minutes to drive into town, it's going to take them about as long to drive in from wherever they're from. And I think they considered this like kind of a non-emergency, especially since there wasn't anything that the first responders were going to really be able to do, because my vital signs were fine. My blood pressure was okay. My, everything was just elevated heart rate. So they said, well, what do you want to do? And well, by the time we called them, to the time they got here, it had dropped, my heart rate had dropped by about 10 beats per minute. So it's like, well, it seems like this is going away on its own. If I go to the hospital, I'm not getting in anytime soon. The hospitals here are horrible because, I mean, between just the fact they're too small and they're understaffed, getting in to see anybody, it's very literally hours wait. So it's like, it's dropping on its own. I'm just gonna wait this out. It seems like it'll be okay. Um, and sure enough, it was. I ended up over the next like hour, it dropped another 10 beats, and then I ended up going to sleep. I woke up the next day, and it was back to normal. And when I say normal, my normal had been, it can be anywhere between like 75 beats per minute up to about 90 beats per minute. It usually holds right around 80 to 85. So we had that little scare. Everything was fine after that. Until this past Sunday. I, I wake up, day was pretty normal. Just kind of taking it easy on the couch. And ever since this has happened, and here's what, to recap, here's what I had an aortic aneurysm repaired, and they replaced the valve, the heart valve, with an artificial one. They were going to try to save it, but because the aneurysm had stretched it to a point where it wasn't leaking, but there's a good chance it was going to have to be replaced in the next few years. So like, rather than going through the surgery again and all the risks associated with that, we're just going to have you have the valve replaced. Now ever since then, especially if I lay certain ways, if I lay on certain sides, laying down period makes it more, but I can feel my heartbeat now, like I couldn't before. Like, I'm sure you'd probably experience, if you go for maybe do like a run or something like that, or you can get your heart rate up, and your heart feels like it's beating harder. Like, that's how I feel like all the time. Like, I don't really feel it right now, but if I were to lay down now, I could feel it. And Sunday, I definitely felt it. And when you can feel it, you can feel drops. Well, I had a significant drop in my heart rate in a very short window of time. So I got one of these, guys. You've probably seen them. You can pick them up at Walmart. I think that's where I got this one. This is a blood ox. The blood ox thing goes on your hand, and it gives you your blood oxygen saturation and your pulse rate. And right now my pulse rate's at 102, 84, 83. Okay, it's settling down. And my blood ox is 96%, which is acceptable, a little low, but my heart rate was dropping down into the high 40s, low 50s, which is kind of weird considering that I wasn't really doing anything to cause that to happen. And when my normal pulse rate was about 80, it was cause for some concern. And the pulse rate wouldn't be steady. Like, instead of just having a steady boom, 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 I'd have like boom, 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 boom. Like, it wasn't consistent. It would clear up on its own, but then it would go right back into doing it without me doing anything, just laying there. Like, I'd feel it come back up, and then it would come back down, and then it'd go back up. And then it would be fine for a while, a half hour, an hour would go by, and it would stop doing that entirely, and I would just be normal. Then it would start up again. Well, this is a Sunday, so we call down to the hospital, but we're not getting to talk to the people that we need to talk to. So they call around and they decide, hey, let's get you down here. We want to have a look what's going on. We don't think it's anything serious, but we would like to at least take a look. They go through the emergency room, and we will let them know you're coming. And this is clear down in Pittsburgh. For us, it's about an hour and a half, 40-minute drive. So we get down there, and we were in the emergency room for maybe 5 minutes. They get me right in, get me back into a room. By the time I'm there, they're monitoring everything. They're not seeing much, and I haven't been feeling much ever since I'd left the house. It seemed like it had stopped. took an x-ray of my chest. They said something didn't look right with my lungs. They thought maybe fluid was building up. There were some concerns over possibly being pneumonia. So that, we're going to admit you. And this was after they had said, oh, we're going to let you go. But then that x-ray came back. Like, we're going to admit you, because then the staff that handles lungs and stuff, pulmonology, like, they'll be here and they can give us a better idea of what's going on there. So another overnight stay. Coincidentally, I'm on the same floor that I was before, which I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. Had some of the same nurses too, which was fun. They were wondering what I was doing back. They thought they'd gotten rid of me. So I'm there for observation. The whole time that I'm there, it's not acting up. I go to bed around 2:30 in the morning. It starts doing it again. And the nurse that was assigned to my room called the person in who does the EKG readings. It gets me. And if you ever had an EKG set up or done, it's like 5 minutes of setup for 10 to 30 seconds worth of testing. It's goofy, but they get me all hooked up and everything. They weren't able to catch it. It had stopped. Now, in a few hours, it started back up again, but it's just like any time I ever tried to actually get it to, get to look at it, they couldn't. But the next morning comes, I talk with my surgeon. He pretty much said, like, pneumonia isn't a concern. We don't think it's pneumonia. Something else going on there. As far as the inconsistent heart rate things, like, these sorts of things, I guess, happen after heart surgery. You'll get these weird sort of anomalies like that. Like, it's definitely worth looking at. Not necessarily anything to be too concerned about. So that's kind of where we let off with that. But they did want to do a sonogram of my lungs just to get a better idea of what was going on there, whatever the x-ray couldn't find. Turned out there was, in my right lung, there was a buildup of fluid, not in the lung, but around the lung. And they said the best thing we can do is drain it. Now, I don't know if anybody happens to watch this. Nobody's going to watch this. But if you've ever had fluid drained from your lungs, it is painful. It is incredibly painful. It was worse than the surgery. They stick a tube in your back. They give you a local anesthetic there, which is fine, except you can feel the tube going in, like because it kind of, like, as it's passing through the hole in your skin, it kind of grabs. So it